Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, working like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fear, then you got game. If you came here to win, yeah, you got game.
Welcome to the show. So, as you know, we interview recording artists, and we also get industry people in to help the artists know what to do, how to market what they do. And one of the biggest things that I've been wanting to cover that we've not been able to cover yet here on the program is merchandise, merch. It is the lifeblood of how artists make money now. Streaming gets you popular. Superfan apps, you can make some money as well. They help make that a little bit easier with streaming. But, your live performance and your merch is what connects you to fans, builds a community, and also gets you paid. So I wanted to find one of the experts. I'm going to make a couple of shows on this, but I wanted to start the first one off with my friend Lucas Guariglia, who is with All World Merch. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Terry.
And you can see he's kind of a merched out guy. Like he looks like a merch guy. But when you go to concerts, if you have something super interesting, you're going to see the lines be long at the merch table.
Of course.
And then I've gone,
days.
and we'll get into more of the quality of things when we get into a deep dive here. We'll start off on some shallow ground. But I go in and I see some of these artists that they're doing great shows and great tours, and I go over and look at their merch, and their shirts look like a shirt that they hand drew, their logo on.
Right.
And I'm like, these people are taking this home, and this is going to be your brand, that they remember. And, of course, having creative merch, too. Anna J, who I've had on the show, she has these little hearts that she has her song title on the little hearts, and they're like a keychain, and a lot of the female fans are putting those on their purses.
Yep.
So, finding things like that are a little bit different, and all of a sudden, you got a promotional item, and you got a great brand. So I wanted to have you on the show because obviously you know about these things. Let's just start off with what even gave you the idea to get into merch?
It was a happy accident. I mean, I came from music industry, started a project and band when I was 15 with my dad and his drummer at the time, and kind of started to really scale it up and come from a musical family, and just started hitting it hard and started to make some moves in Chicago and started doing shows in the Midwest, and then started to kind of spiral out from there. And so we were able to start to jump on some bigger tours, and we were making more money selling merch than we were on the measly guarantees that we had for a show. And so
because artists do think that's going to be more money, because they fight over these, even on a bar level, they'll fight and compete over these $300 to $800 fees that they get to come play these places. And I'm like, you're leaving so much money on the table because you don't even have these things set up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we were sourcing it to a random screen printing guy in Chicago, and it was always screwed up, and came from a couple different undergrad marketing and art degrees, and really kind of came back to the table and was just like, this can't be rocket science. So I want to be able to control the quality. I want to be able to control the timeline, and there was really no aspirations of having it become a company or really doing anything outside of just the band that I was in. And then, as you know, the music industry is so big but so small at the same time. And so then everybody was like, hey, who's your t-shirt guy? Who's your merch guy? And so it started to kind of fan out that way, and knew some heavier hitters kind of in the rock world. And so we started doing their merch, and then, all of a sudden 15 years later, it was like, oh shit, it's a real company now.
So let me have you walk us through your full service offering with the company. Let's talk about product development, sourcing, production, fulfillment, and even distribution.
Yeah, so we the easiest way that I always kind of explain it to people is that if you have a logo, you have a brand, if you're an artist, then we're here to help you kind of take your merch to the next level. And some people know what that is. Some people have absolutely no idea what that is. And so I kind of explain it on the far left and the far right, where on the right side of it, sometimes we'll do very large scale production for, Korn or whoever, large acts that are coming through, and they just need to kind of replenish. And so they'll reach out and they just want to use us for production leverage, and we'll do that. And that's kind of just, we have our designs, we know exactly what we want to do, make it and make sure it's quality and delivered on time. Far left side are people who really are super green to it, don't have any idea where to start. They don't know what pieces they want. They don't know what's kind of going on in the market. And, we work up from the ground there. And the middle ground is where I always like to think that there's a lot of good magic there, because people have some ideas, but also we come at it from a different point of view, knowing the production side of it. And so we can kind of either bring up new ideas, bring up new ways that we can elevate where they're thinking, or sometimes, as an artist and creative, you get cornered in your own ideas and you think that this is the best idea, but if somebody sees it from a different angle, that's where we try to say, hey, we can run with that if you want, but did you think about this direction? Think about, how we can do that. So it really is kind of 360 degrees. Everything that we can do that is either necessary or people are interested in, we can help you from all of those angles, or we can really cherry pick each one of those that you need.
Yeah, and that really is the difference between using your local T-shirt manufacturer. I mean, I get people want to support local, but when you're in the music industry and you're trying to build a career, I'm more a fan of a merch company.
Sure.
Because those merch companies are used to having merch people on the road. A lot of times and we'll get into this, they will supply merch people, that almost act as tour managers,
right.
As well, for the acts that are at a level that they can do that. What is your typical turnaround time between concept and creation? And does that vary per level that we're talking about here?
It does vary. But I mean, generally we try to live in 7 to 10 business days. I mean, that's kind of
a lot quicker actually than I thought. So.
Really? Well, yeah. I mean, I do get the calls on Sunday night at 10 p.m. that are like, we have a tour coming through on Monday or Tuesday and we need stuff. And that does nothing but stress me out. But, we make it happen. But, I think that's where coming from the music industry and having a soft spot and understanding it on the artist side and the business side is that you can get it done. And I try to put myself on the other side of it and know that if you have somebody who's willing to do the backflips, that is willing to make it happen, those are the people I'm going to stick with. And honestly, the partners and the contacts and the people that we've produced for forever at this point, they haven't gone anywhere and they're not going anywhere, because it's the service and it's the relationship. And you're going to get some people here and there that are just interested in like, what is the cheapest that I can do? And that's not, we're very aggressive. We know the market, we know what's out there, but at the end of the day, if it's ever a conversation of pricing, it's more so that we're going to be close to whoever it is out there. And at the end of the day, if you're looking for just the cheapest of the cheap, like everybody, you get what you get at a certain point. Yeah. We're not, by far any means the most expensive thing that's out there, but it's just it's the relationships and that's always more important to me than just a transactional in and out stuff.
Yeah. And the people that are just looking for the pricing side of it are absolutely not thinking about their fans.
Right.
If this is your brand, we talk about this, if artists are brands, they're a business. I said this, a couple shows where it's music industry, if you don't think that way, then you're just a hobbyist, because
right.
you can't, make money in such a competitive world where there are, over 100,000 songs, I think it's a day or a couple of days on Spotify now. And,
yeah, you're saturated.
You're competing with everybody on social media. But you can compete if you show up. And you show up with something that's quality and gets noticed. It's a cool logo, spending time on your logo. I always tell people, if you're developing a logo, develop one that can be in color and in black and white, right. That can be embroidered and all that, because you're going to have it on everything. It could be from ink pens to hats to, whatever. So you need it that way that it's recognizable. You look at the great brands like Van Halen and Aerosmith, and you could go on,
Nike.
Yeah. All day long about that. You can almost see it on a symbol without even knowing the name, and you can recognize it that way. And they will want it. They will want to be Van Halen, but they will want it on a budget of a
budget Van Halen.
A guy that plays
Walmart
a restaurant
Van
with an
Halen.
acoustic guitar and just concentrates on the money he's going to make from that restaurant, which is a couple $100 to do that. That's not how growing yourself as an artist is. You have to stretch out. You have to learn to be a treasure hunter.
Right.
I put this in a book that I wrote. It's not about just whether you have the money. If you don't, learn how money works and learn how to go get the money. Learn how to get buying power and learn how to have other people involved, but get quality stuff to start building your tribe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the, like I said, the partnerships. I mean, we were printing for some of the, what are now the largest, Grammy Award winning artists that they couldn't even afford to print 24 shirts. They were doing a CD release. And it, to us, it was one of those things that is like, how do you create that relationship? If you need to extend yourself and take a risk, then that's fine. But it's those sorts of things, finding a partner that is going to believe in you, but also seeing the bigger picture together, that I know that you're going to continue to grow. It's success on both sides. We want you to grow just as much as, we want to continue growing together. So I agree. And you're making, your fans are purchasing stuff from you. So if you're trying to charge, top dollar, especially, the merch prices these days, you go to a show and it's, $125 for a zip hoodie. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially knowing the inside of what that costs. But, you want people are more conscious of how they're spending money, and you want to be giving them a top tier piece that is really kind of encompassing everything about your brand. And you could tell that. You can tell people who don't really care and they're just like, whatever. But then the ones that really pay attention, put their attention to detail, then that's the stuff that sticks out to me, certainly. But I see a lot of it.
Oh, I had this artist, they sent me a website and they were like, Terry, look at this merch. It looks really cool. I was like, it does look cool. So they ordered it because they test. This is a smart artist. It's not, one who's just, like we said, just kind of fly by night with it. They're calculated. So they ordered it, and on their trip to Nashville, they were sending me videos of how, just from opening it and having it in their car, how it shed all over their seat. Mm-hmm. How the logo was getting worn. And, some of these logos, when you buy a cheap T-shirt, for instance, and you're giving it to your fan, and your fan is wearing your logo, you don't want it to look like a tattoo that somebody got in their 20s, and all of a sudden, it looks a lot different when they're 80. Right. And that's what these tend to do, and that's your brand. When the collar starts to roll down here, and the sleeves get all torn, and it fades way too quickly. Those type of things. That is your brand. Mm-hmm. That's somebody that invested money in you, as an artist, and so they are kind of bragging on you by having you on their body. So you would want it to be there and represent well. Yeah,
you don't want to see it and be embarrassed that that the quality's not there.
Yeah.
And they spent $60 on a T-shirt.
But I see that over and over. And those are the people that think low price versus, hey, I got to get something to grow my brand and represent it well. Do you handle international shipping and customs and returns?
We do. So we'll do a lot on the e-com side too. When bread and butter. If someone's out on the road, that's where we're really in the thick of it. And those are when the calls on Sunday night come in from tour manager, label, whoever. But we're kind of following that very closely because I want to know, all right, how are things selling? What do we have to forecast? Like, what's going to happen? And so beyond that, a lot of that will then spill over to e-com after the tour is done. And so we'll deal with the fulfillment of it. And a lot of that is, hopefully if the artist is big enough, I mean, they're selling internationally, and, it's really kind of, that was something that fell into place because we weren't doing it, but we were getting asks for it. And it just seemed easier just to kind of have everything under one umbrella to be able to control. And artists like that. I mean, they want to talk to one person and wring one person's neck instead of multiple.
Yeah. And, that's one thing I like about the modern way of doing things. Because somebody had texted me the other night and said, "Do you miss the old music business?" And there were certain things, like certain things were comfortable. You know, you find an artist, you got a booking agent, of course you're the manager, and you're finding a label, and that part seemed simpler, you know, than now. But the opportunities now are so vast, and you have the metrics that you'd be played on the radio, but you didn't know who the fan was. I've had people on the biggest talk shows on television and have no idea who's watching, even though they got millions watching, because it's so vast. Where now, like on a podcast, for instance, you have metrics you can measure on the superfan platforms, you know, because they work with merch and they work with the streaming and combine them. You get the metrics on that. And, you know, with Spotify, for instance, when you go in and look at your metrics, it'll tell you what the geographical areas that you're played the most. So then you know, hey, and I think there's majority of artists that don't even do this part, but you can say, okay, I need to focus some places here.
Right.
And all of a sudden you see you're played in Germany or, you know, some other country that you didn't even know. And through the internet now, you can market in those countries. And then the fulfillment is different than it used to be.
Right. Funny you say that, because I still get from that project that started with my dad when I was 15, I still get royalties monthly, and I still get all of the breakouts of, you know, Spotify demographics. And it's been an ongoing joke that I'm convinced that somewhere the UPC number is something different, because I'm like, there's no way that, you know, someone in Zimbabwe is consecutively listening to this over and over. But it's wild. I mean, it's a very cool thing, especially just because now, you know, what you said about the older music industry, I feel like was a little bit tougher, but there was very distinct pathways. Like, you knew that I have to get I have to get a manager, I have to get a booking agent. There were these things that you needed to check off the list. Nowadays, everything got thrown away, and it was like, you don't even necessarily need those. You could do it yourself. But at the same time, there's a lot more people, I think, in the mix now, because you can do it yourself.
You could do it yourself, but the reason people don't do it themselves well is they don't have consultants.
Right.
And they don't have quality managers. I have a lot of people that tell me, oh, we have a manager, but they just don't know what they're doing. And your manager should know what they're doing.
Right.
I mean, even if it's your cousin that comes on to manage, they should be reading the books. They should be watching the videos, learn to manage well, if your goal is to really get this artist, you know, in the place that they need to get to. But with the technology that you have, you can really build a brand, and you just have to educate yourself on how it works. And you know, that's one thing I try to do with the show, and we try to do as a network here, is we try to get people involved to where they, you know, they're the people that work in the industry, and we draw attention to the merch companies, the booking agents. I had the security chief for some of the major bands on here showing, you know, how that works when you get there, and the quality of, you know, being safe when you go into these venues. Yeah. All of those things would pull back the curtain, because if they know this, then they can market themselves better, they can build their brand better. And again, having somebody like you that's, of course, you know, dealt with the brands, but also understands there are a lot more opportunities now to get the merch out. Like you can do last minute drops, you know, on a tour that you couldn't have done, you know, normally back in the day, because you have access to that information. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the time, you know, I think an artist wants to be an artist. And I think that some artists shy away from the idea of thinking like, I want to think of this as a business, because they just want to be an artist. But unfortunately, it is a business.
It's absolutely a business.
When it comes to like the manager side of it, you could have, you know, someone that maybe has no idea what they're doing, and there's somewhat of a, I don't want to say a facade of that, but like having people on your team is a psychological thing to the next level of it, that you know, if it's just you by yourself and you're trying to peddle this, and, you know, I did that for a long time before we had anybody that was really kind of believing and trying to push things, but it gives people the understanding that, well, there's somebody else that believes in them, so maybe I should believe in them and I should understand this. And certainly back to like the quality that and the attention that you're putting into the product, not only just the merch, but everything that you're doing, that if you're not believing in it and you're not selling that to people that you care about it, then why should they care about it? Because everything's a dime a dozen these days. You can find a million different artists.
Yeah, and, you know, even not just the bands, like let's look at the R-Beat situation here. The way I think of this, you know, the founder had a great vision with R-Beats, and I think she picks the host pretty well. I'm not just talking about myself, but we have really interesting, great hosts on here that are just different, and a lot of them didn't have the experience, when they got here, and they developed them well. But what it reminds me of is kind of like a WWE, where you have the WWE brand, but then you have your wrestlers, that are under it, like your Batistas and John Cena's. I think of the hosts kind of like that, like they're an individual brand that's under this umbrella with this brand. So in something like that, we work with musicians, creatives, conferences in Charlotte, and obviously beyond, because we have that capability to go out there. How would you approach developing a merchandise line for a communicator or a connector brand, actually, like what I do?
I think it's the same thing. I mean, I think that no matter what the industry, it's, you're very good at marketing yourself. You're very good at, you have your vision. How you want to be perceived. Kind of your voice and everything that you're doing. And I think that it just becomes funneling down, okay, how do we represent that the same way through apparel or through promotional items, through, whatever it is branded? Because at the end of the day, there's only so many things that can be done. I mean, and we try to push the limit even further, and we'll do a lot of, when you mention the product development stuff, like how do we take this and how do we do this different? How do we custom mold this? How do we, completely take the idea of what a cup was and throw that out? And unfortunately, there's only so many ways to do that. But if you're thinking about it that way, then now you're separating yourself. And, the older mentality of going back to the pricing thing is that people just, especially when it comes to a trade show or a conference, that people just I just want to give away thousands of shirts. Okay, how many of us have gotten those shirts that do nothing but become a dust rag or get thrown away anyway? And that's the complete opposite of what you're trying to do. You're trying to get people to wear that. So I think, as a communicator, as an influencer, as a brand, as a band, as a creative, it all kind of focuses in on the same thing about how do you want people to perceive you and read you immediately and know kind of your whole vibe, your aesthetic, your energy by looking at, whatever, a pen or a cup or a coaster or whatever it is. And that's goes back to that focus. I think once you have a clear vision of that, then, we can help kind of redefine the vision or just focus the vision. But I think it starts truly with the artist or creative.
Yeah. And one of the things you were talking about there is like, we've heard it with Stephen Covey, which is beginning with the end in mind. And the end in mind is, of course, the audience. And it's always audience first.
Right.
If you have audience first, you're going to create, you're going to be able to develop the right merch because you know who's buying from you. And that's something I feel artists need to pay more attention to. You hear marketers say that they need to create an avatar. I had a marketer on the show that she said, your person, like who is your person? And define who that person is, because a lot of artists say my music is for everybody, but it's not. Music industry is subjective. People like bands that I like, and they hate bands that I like.
Right.
And some of the best bands that are making the most money out there are some of the most hated and brained on bands that you see on social media. I was trying to find a polite way to put that. Could you tell? I was having to think.
But some of them are also laughing all the way to the bank. There's how many people hate on Nickelback, but Nickelback write great songs and
every year.
Yeah, they're laughing at you, laughing at them.
Yeah, or U2, which is one of my favorite bands. It's like when you see the Moneymakers. I saw the list. It was like the Rolling Stones, it was the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and then U2. I had no idea that were that far up the list, but I remember like in years ago, their real estate holdings were like in the hundreds of millions, and they're good at that part of it. I mean, they always have been. Well, let's talk about the other side of that. Do you offer low runs for independent artists, or only larger runs?
No, we're all over the place, and I think that just comes into how are we going to produce it. And a lot of the time, back to the left and the far right side of it, if you have no idea and this is just where you are, we'll kind of do a deep dive in how do we immerse ourselves into what's your demographic? Like, what are you trying to do? How are we trying to build this? And a lot of the times I'll have the conversation and talk money out of our doors and say, you don't need to buy 10,000 shirts because you're not going to sell them. And that doesn't do anything but hurt both of us because I'm never going to see you again. And also you're just going to have all those in your garage. So the low run side of it, it's kind of a pick your poison, because there's certain production methods that will work on the lower side of it. Some of them, have their place. Some of them are just a lesser quality when you compare it to a traditional screen print. And people are now kind of accustomed to, you can find 1 million people online. And a lot of the time I run into people who have horror stories of it, because those companies, they're not taking the time to educate anybody on what we're doing. They just say, all right, you need 12 shirts. Cool, you're going to get 12 shirts. And you have no idea what you're going to get. Sometimes you'll get a DTG direct-to-garment print. Sometimes you'll get a vinyl transfer. Sometimes you'll get, a hybrid print. And that's not necessarily their fault, but at the same time, we try to come at it from the angle of like, if you want to go this route, you can do this, but this is kind of going to be the effect. And we got to be protective on our side, because like you said earlier, we don't want someone to be out there and say, that's a cool logo, but like, that's kind of a shitty print. And where'd that come from? Because that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. So we try to guide it and try to figure out something that is a middle ground. How do we protect your budget? How do we help you get to the next level of what that is? And, we've done everything under the sun to try to help, kind of artists of varying levels get to that point. And, we have pretty good success stories of a lot of those people who have now gotten to, the other side and are continuing to grow.
Very cool. Well, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, find out what's going on at Our Beats and all the really cool stuff. There's always something new. I watch this stuff and I'm like a fan when I see all the new stuff they're coming out with. So we'll take a quick break for that. When we come back, we'll start off talking about fan experience, and then we'll deep dive even more into the importance of merch and how it builds community.
Awesome.
You with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
We'll be right back after this.
Happy Hollows Eve, all you Our Beats bangers. It is me, Delta Sigma. Part of the DJ World Beats experience, coming to you on location. From the No-Tell Motel Masquerade and Halloween Party, tossing the candy back and forth with our favorite host, Annalise Pearl, along with house jam band Greasy Keys. Check it out as we slay the sleeper hits on location in the rbeats.com Monster Mansion. You are in for a real tasty treat on the October Trending Show, brought to you by rbeats.com and DJ World Beats right here on the RBeats Radio Media and Streaming Network. Take it away, Annalise.
Welcome back to another spooky segment of What's Trending Now on RBeats Radio Media and Streaming Network. Take it away, Greasy. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And now let's get started on our upcoming local, national, and international concerts. Starting off with Marcus Anderson, a Grammy-nominated jazz fusion saxophonist who will be performing at Middle C Jazz Club on Saturday, October 25th. Doors open at 5:15 p.m. You can get your tickets at middlecjazz.com. Greasy.
Yo!
Who's a Grammy-nominated artist who you'd love to meet one day?
My dream has always been to meet the Queen Bee herself, Beyonce.
Oh, we love Queen Bee in this household.
That's right. Thank you, Annalise. You must check out Middle C Jazz Club with John Splithoff for the Far From Here tour.
Taking place on Wednesday, October 29th. Doors open at 5:30 p.m.
Greasy, have you been to Middle C Jazz before?
Been there several times. It's going to be a great night, so make sure to get your tickets for that show.
We love the energy. Charlotte's annual Confluence Carolinas is hosting a kickoff party at Amos South End on Wednesday, October 8th, featuring performances from Joe May and Time Sawyer. Doors open at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at confluencecarolinas.com. Greasy.
Yo!
Where's the place in South End that people need to check out?
Next time you're in South Bend, check out Monday Night Brewing. They have cold beer and live music. It's a great place.
Music to my ears. This is Annalise Pearl and Greasy Keys bring you all the new details and the latest trending watercore conversations. Stay on top of the RBeats app and RBeats.com, always bringing you the best of the best independent national and international music artists. Constant influences are on the RBeats app. You all know the drill. Now let's get started with this week's DJ World Beats top trending songs. Spinning now on 25.8, 366 or global pop stream. DJ World Beats brings you Afterbody by Jay Stevens.
Bruises brings you their new track, Corrida Amolia. And secondly from Bruises, we have F My Ex.
Trending now on Our Beats Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have Loneliness by Tom Kraft.
Yes, Annalise. Rolling right along on Our Beats Radio is Rave Till My Grave by Hardwell and Maddox featuring Villain. Now we have Ellen Alien, Under the Ocean. Slaying their new sleeper hit, we have Masuma and Dosamus with Contesto on Our Beats Radio. Now let's take a journey together on the Our Beats Backflip Lounge with Italian artist ATLXS bringing you the hit Passo Bem Salto, along with Azimo's hit Let Her Go. Hip hop is our heart on We Global Radio, starting with Baby Sham, Stephen Marley, Damian Jr. Gong Marley, blowing it up with Hustling in My Blood. Next we have Masika with their hit Old Topic, Ayola bringing you Homie, Luis Enriquez, Net and Vega, Furza Regaida with Chula Vent, Frisco, Omi 1, featuring JME, Flodan and Jaya Had a Dream. And lastly, Bugsy Malone with Let's Go Back featuring Kelly.
And we have closing out on USA Heroes, our classic rock and country station, we have Moneybag Yo by Whiskey Whiskey featuring Morgan Wallen. And that concludes this week's countdown. Be sure to check out our social media sensation show, What's Trending Now, and be sure to check out RBTZ TV on YouTube and the watch list with Greasy Keys. That's all for now. Take it away, Greasy. Thank y'all for watching.
We're very honored to be here today and to form a partnership with Michael and bringing an American Hockey League team to Charlotte. We really feel that this is a huge step forward to the growth of hockey in North Carolina and in the South.
This is my new home.
They score again. Sorla, it's the hat trick.
And Elkovich for the empty net. He scores. The longest game in American Hockey League history, and we are in the midst of it. Rebound chance. St. Patrick. They're going to the Calder Cup Finals. The Charlotte Checkers are Calder Cup champions! They are the kings of the American Hockey League, and there's no one left to beat. Lawrence can win the game. Fake shoots!
It's been 590 days since the last hockey game in Charlotte, and the Checkers will don a new affiliate on their sweaters and a familiar face as their new captain.
Shot, he scores! Checkers with a rebound. Carlson buries it. We're back tomorrow night. On the right wing board, Samoskevich finds some ice shot. He scores, and the Checkers have their first lead of the Queen City Outdoor Classic.
And we're back, and I'm here in the studio with my friend Lucas from All World Merch. And before we get into fan experience, let me just ask you this simple question. Out of the merch types, what product type does the best in the artist space, like artist-musician space?
Like what garment or what piece of merch?
What piece of merch?
I mean, I think a T-shirt's always going to take that because you can layer it, and it's just always been there. And also I guess the price point, people who are, especially now, what it is, like we were talking about, going to buy a $150 sweatshirt is not going to work for everybody. So I'm gonna defer to the T-shirt.
Yeah, well, I mean, even those for most of the well-known bands are like about $40,
right?
Something like that.
It's crazy.
It's definitely not a Walmart T-shirt.
No.
Not to say anything bad about Walmart, but they are good on prices.
Well, and everybody's got that, especially at that level. Everybody's got their hands in the mix, and Live Nation's taking this, and the venue's taking this, and by the time that it should be a $20 T-shirt, but
yeah, and of course they add all the other things that the artist doesn't get a part of.
Right,
I'll say some things about that.
Right,
sometimes that and paid parking. I'm not the biggest fan of paid parking.
Right,
I'm always public about that, but I mean, even the venues. And I love the venues, but you don't even get a lawn seat now. You get the option of buying that $15 chair. You can't bring your own.
Yep.
They're always making money. I get it. I get the economy. I don't know that all of it's greed, but there's some parts in there that could be better.
For sure.
For absolutely sure.
Or the $30 beer.
Yeah. It's like I see these artists and they're coming up with these creative ways for merch and to connect with their fans. I would like their fans to walk in with more money to these venues to be able to buy things from the artist with merch. And if two people come in a car, they might spend $40 just in parking before they walk in. I really think something needs to be scaled a little bit different than that. And that's why it's not a personal thing. It's just more I want to see artists succeed. I want to see money go into their pocket. And I think so much is designed from the recording contracts, whatever, to pull the money
out
of their pocket, right? And make somebody else's day with that. Okay, let's talk about fan experience. What are typical cost structures per unit cost, shipping, handling, and margins that the artist can expect, with your clients? Or does that vary per?
Yeah, it's pretty broad. Just because somebody who's doing a one color T-shirt versus a full color photograph with a custom tag and also then just quantity. But I mean, for T-shirts, you can be in the $7-8 range. I mean, all the way up to the $20-30 range if you're doing wild production. If we're doing some cut and sew pieces, those can get even crazier. If we're doing some,
what's an example of a cut and sew piece?
So what did we do most recently? We did a bomber jacket. So I had an artist that had a favorite bomber jacket, and they basically sent that to us and said, we want this. And I don't even know what year that was even from. And so, we dissect it and we basically say, okay, well, we can spec this out based on this. And then we're going to give you a spread of materials. What are you trying to do on this? Are we doing, when it comes to cut and sew, some of the times if we're doing like wild embroidery all over the sleeve, you can really kind of only accomplish that pre-final assembly of the garment. So you're building it from the ground up. And those are the interesting things, and seeing it come from an idea of, just somebody bringing something to you and saying, okay, well, now what this final result is really cool. And I have a lot of those pieces that, I still look at these days and I'm like, that's wild, because I remember when that wasn't even a thing in the world.
And that's an investment from a fan too,
right.
When a fan sees a piece like that, I mean, that's a collecting thing for them
absolutely.
That they want in their home.
Yeah.
Some of those even get framed.
Right.
Yeah.
I still have, it wasn't cut and sew piece, but I still have a Deftones windbreaker that I've had when I was 17 years old. And anytime that I'll wear that, and if I come across a Deftones fan, they're like, oh shit, you have that one still.
Well, how do you assure the quality part of it for the artist, when it comes to materials? What steps do you take to have those things in place?
I think just the knowledge. I mean, I'm in it, and kind of the rest of the team is so not only invested in the industry, but I think I'm just consciously wanting to learn about what's out there and also where technology's going. So trade shows and conferences. I mean, I'll do a lot of speaking at the conferences too, just from our experience with them. But a lot of the time I'm just there as a sponge and just trying to learn from either somebody else, a different production facility has a better way to do this. What is the new t-shirt that is coming out and why is that going to be superior? What is the new trend and, kind of material? So when it comes to quality, I think it's just knowing what you're going to get and knowing, I could tell you could put all the t-shirts that are out there kind of in the market right now, and I could look at each one and I could know that this one's going to have better printability than that one does, just based on, we can get in the weeds of it of like thread count versus the face of it to screen print. So I think it's just, your team. Like we want to be a partner and we want to be an asset to getting you a really good product because that helps both of us. And I don't know, I'm not a fan of things that aren't done well. And I'd feel worse giving somebody something that I know could have been done better than looking them straight in the face and saying like, this is the best thing in the world.
Right. And this is, why the artist, because when you're dealing with independent artists, which there are several levels of even independent artists, and we've kind of discussed that. You have the people they're playing restaurants and bars, and they're great performers, and they, they're trying to connect with their fans, so they have, of course, merch. And then you have people that are on the ticketed side, and then you have people that are trying to transition out of this to the ticketed side, and they're trying to build, what they have. So in that there's kind of a variety, but to me, the vast majority of serious, artists that are in this category, here, because they haven't quite made it to this level,
right? But
they were able to walk out of because there are some people that they're bar and restaurant musicians. That's all they want. They have regular great jobs, and they're maybe hobbyists, or they're making a great solid living,
right.
Way more than they'd make on a job playing, bars and restaurants. But
they're not tainted yet by the
they don't have the desire to go this route.
Right.
It takes a special person to step up into ticketed concerts because you got to be more entrepreneurial. But there's so many at this level on the indie scene. I think this pretty much comprises the indie scene, and they're selling pretty well, and they're getting great streams. But they're the ones that are trying to build that community, with their fans. So with that, with that target in mind, how does merch play into? Because it sounds like it would be kind of not really a no-brainer question, but it sounds like it'd be pretty common. But it's not one that I think is thought as much about as it should be. But how much does that play into your building your community, your tribe?
I think it's as important as the music and who you are as an artist. And that's not just me saying it from the business side that, buy merch so that we can make merch. I think that it's the whole ethos of what you're trying to do as an artist, how you're presenting yourself. And, when I was 15, some of the fake it until you make it is like, we had this trash merch set up that was zip tied together. And, but, we were coming at it looking at who are our mentors, and like they've got a full spread. They've got t-shirts, hoodies, they've got hats, they got everything out there, and we have
probably inventoried well,
right? Exactly,
with an inventory sheet before they actually do the concert, before they sell anything that night.
Yeah, a notebook and happy that there was actually money at the end of the day. But it's just we wanted to have people perceive it that way, and that this is something that you're taking serious. So you may have like you said, that person who's just playing bars and restaurants and they don't really care, and that doesn't mean that it's not necessary for them. But at the same time, if people are that into you, they're gonna be happy. I mean, we do merch for restaurants, and
I was gonna say it is still important for them.
Right.
The ticketed concert thing is not as important to them,
right?
Because they're not trying to move in that. Right. But the merch thing is important because they're still trying to get those fans to come, support them and put that money in the tip jar and buy the merch and have creative stuff there, because I have friends that play restaurants. That's all they want to do, but they built a good living having specific merch.
And if you don't, I mean, it's money on the table. Yeah, and that's I think where either a lot of people overlook it at that that level because you think that it's I don't have the startup capital, I don't know how to do it, and let's just not do it. Let's focus on this. But that's could be your gas money. That can be strings,
Right.
whatever else you're needing. So it's definitely an important part of it. I think the full package, just who you are as an artist.
And the reason that I like a company like yours, for instance, is that you're out there already working specifically. Like there's, entertainment law versus law.
Right.
There are a bunch of lawyers out there, but if you're trying to be in the music industry, you have to have an entertainment attorney because they understand the wording of the contract.
Right.
So you have a merch company that then, they work with branding for companies and things like that, but they're on the road with the artist.
Mm-hmm.
They know what the artists are facing. They know kind of what's going to sell, what's going to work. And you come to them in the same way you'd come to your producer.
Right.
You don't go to your producer as a know-it-all and tell them everything. You pick them for a reason to make your project sound better. In a company like yours, you pick them for that expertise. And also because, like you were talking about, this is such a huge value. You're at these trade shows.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were being a sponge. So you find out what are going to be the trends for this coming year. So you have that input. Because the same thing works in songwriting. Like, what is going to be the format coming out of Nashville this year? You're not going to know that unless you're, in connection with somebody in Nashville. I'm a big fan of Charlotte being my base, but I know there has to be a tie to Nashville because of, things like that. You have to have some knowledge of that when you're working in a system. I think you bring that to the table. And the other things, when you get to a certain level, not only are you advising them on those things, but you can actually send somebody out with them. Mm-hmm. Do you have that capability?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and that comes even just from, my lineage and contacts in the industry that, there's people who are either tour managers or merch managers that have been out with the biggest people that are out there. And they know it in and out. And so, I mean, we've had situations where, we'll connect a merch manager that will come out with you. We'll connect, and there's some great technology like at Venue that's out there these days, and so we can integrate with that directly into our fulfillment. We can see exactly, tracking. Usually, that's me talking to the managers and or people in the bands just saying what's going on. But yeah, I mean, we can every varying level. There's somebody there, and I think that part of being nimble and being just kind of whatever needs to be done, if there's somebody, or the instances when we have anybody, a band or an artist or a brand that comes in and is like, I need this, even if it's something that, and I've seen a lot over the years, that is something that is like, I don't know about that. I think that we've always looked at it as like, all right, well, let's figure it out, because if you have a need for it, there's a need somewhere else. Right. And also, I just don't want to be that company or that type of person that is like, no, that's not, because that's what I was always told in the early merch days, that no, you can't do that. We can't do this. We can't print that big. We can't, this is a different type of thing. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? It's this. Yes, you can. You're just not willing to push the limits. And that, to me, as an artist and creative, like, that's not an answer. Yeah. Somebody can do it.
No matter what movie you see, like if you see a movie, the movie's out about the guys that created the great cars like Maserati or Lamborghini, and you watch those movies, and it was always somebody telling them the same thing. Oh, that can't be done because, the car is too heavy to do this. Well, what if we, they always have that innovator. What if we move the whatever here? What if it's made out of this kind of material instead of that kind of?
Yeah.
And people, they don't think that extra step. Again, having somebody like that.
Yeah, that fires me up more. If somebody already told you no, then I'm even more so, I don't even care about whatever we're working on. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we can absolutely figure that out, because I don't want to be told, no, it's impossible. It's not.
Without knowing whether...
Right, it may be impossible at the end of the day, but
or it just may be out of reach. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but are you willing to step up and do this?
Right.
If you want to make this happen, at least you have the answer on that. So how do you handle fulfillment when the merch is sold online versus at live shows or maybe pre-order campaigns, things like that? So
we have fulfillment warehouse, and we'll tie in. It's so seamless these days with whatever, it's Shopify or Squarespace or any web platform basically can tie into our back end. And we integrate, we get all of the information that is all the order information. We don't really, for the majority, unless we're doing something that is a revenue split or something like that, then we don't even touch any of the money. We just deal with, you had somebody that ordered this, pick, pack, and ship it, it's gone. And that has always been an asset, I think, to the artist, because that's one, knowing the insides of that part of the business, it is not the glamorous side. And it's never, I've never liked it. It's fine. It's an amenity, and it's not our moneymaker for sure. And I don't want it to be our moneymaker, but it's something that artists and people, they hate doing. And they don't want to either, they don't have enough that they're shipping, that they have pickups every day from whoever, UPS, FedEx, USPS, or they don't want to run this to the post office every single day and deal with this and deal with customer service. That's always anybody's the worst part of it.
Yeah. And there are fulfillment companies out there, but that I didn't know if that was like a heavy part.
I mean, it's not. We've done it for a long time.
It's expensive to have somebody else do fulfillment for you.
It is. I mean, we probably should be more expensive because of how terrible it sometimes is. But
yeah, I've been involved in that. I know. Yeah, I'm aware of the shipping and everything involved in that. So this is something that artists are very weak in when they're first starting out, and they got to get really good at as they grow, which is inventory management. What is your process for inventory management? Do you hold stock, or you print on demand? Do you have a hybrid of both? Or
we have a hybrid. For the majority, if it is a fulfillment program, then I mean, I'm pretty rigid about let's start clean from the start. So if there's a program that's coming in or a band that's coming off of the road, as soon as we get that shipment, or as soon as that tour bus comes in and we pull it off, we're doing a hard count on that, because everybody's got to be clear from the start that there was 750 of these t-shirts, and that's what it is. Because the worst thing is when we get kind of caught in this crosswind where either somebody's coming over from an old fulfillment person, they have a live e-commerce site, they want to keep selling stuff, but this one's still selling things, and they have bogus inventory, and all of a sudden now they oversold something, and somebody paid for 5 shirts and they don't exist, and now all of a sudden they're looking at us and we're like, well, we're not just going to print those 5 because it was a cut and sew jacket. So now what are you going to do? Now you have to refund them. They don't want to refund it, and so so we're very meticulous from the start of let's get it very clean, because also you want to know what your numbers are. And so monthly, as we have those fulfillment programs, you'll get, here's your invoice for how many were pick, packed, and shipped. Here's everything that comes out that is all your tracking information, everybody that's purchased, and blah, blah, blah. And then here's your live inventory. And we'll set, I mean, this has been a big thing since I got involved with it, that how do we set where flags are? So when this hits 48 pieces left, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep selling through it? Do you want to do a re-up of it? So we try to, we're still in the mix of it. It's not just like set it and forget it. The pre-sale side of it is a blessing and a curse sometimes, because it's great for artists that don't want to carry the overhead. We don't know how something's going to work. It's kind of a beta test. The downside of it is, because you don't know what's going to happen, it's hard to kind of predict what are we going to do for production. We can, price it out, or we can anticipate you're going to sell 200 of these. What do we do when it sells 5? And the people that bought the 5, the people that bought the 5 are expecting the quality that you were going to give people, when you're printing 200 of them. So, that kind of goes back to the building process of like, let's prepare for all sides of this, and hopefully we net out on the other side where you're doing well. But, I've crossed all the bridges before.
Well, that's a good point on this then. How do you help scale a merch program from first drop to building a sustained revenue channel?
I think consistency, for sure. There's a brand, Supreme, that, a lot of people have known and followed, just kind of what their formula of just creating this sense of urgency. And everybody loves to tell somebody, we sold, I sold out of the venue, I sold out of this, I sold out of everything. So being able to have kind of a real stronghold on who your demographic is, how many do we need to produce, what are we going to do? Like, is this going to be dead and gone after this? Are we going to do a reprint? I think that gives your audience and, your consumers the idea that, well, they don't do that. So once that's gone, that's never coming back. And then the consistency of, we did a drop 2 months ago, and what are we going to do? Then you just sold out of everything, and that's going to sit dormant for a year. Everybody's going to forget. So, like, how are we forecasting? What are you going to do? Like, what's in your back pocket for the next drop? Even beyond what your vision is for that, what are we doing in production? And we've done, there's things that we're already working on that are 2026 for artists and tours that haven't even, the concept side is not even done, but we're so far ahead of it that we want to have that moving so that the new stuff that just came out is already there, but we're, kind of behind it. You know a lot of the fashion industry side of it too. So it's like those companies that are like, oh, we're already designing for summer 2028.
Right.
Like, that's crazy. What?
Yeah, but again, having people that are in that mix that understand that, because it's that old adage of, especially we're sitting here at air hockey table, but it's not where the puck is, it's where the puck is going.
Right.
And that's in everything. Just like we talk to artists and they're talking about listening to a certain artist on radio and they're trying to learn from that. I'm like, well, what you're listening to, they recorded 8 or 9 months ago,
right.
Get out now, so you don't know what they're doing next. That's what you need to be paying attention to. Same thing in merch.
Yeah.
Same thing in video. Same thing, seek ahead. Try to find, why there's so many podcasts, Gary Vee, people like that talk about what the next things are going to be. Right now we're on our phones, but we know that everything is being geared towards glasses, for instance. And that I sat in an Atmos studio room at a studio yesterday. We're talking about Apple. They're, the way they're trying to gear, and these other companies trying to gear the Atmos, recordings, because you can, it goes around
like
your
full
head.
sensory.
It's like, it's going to be good for goggles. It's going to be, good for VR and all of that. So long term, everything drifts that way. So it's knowing that stuff, creating your stuff now, to be in that land grab when it happens. And it's of course the same thing with merch. It's like, what are the materials that are going to be better, that are going to be cool? Like with those really soft T-shirts that came out a few years ago, and they were a little bit more hugging, than the others, and everybody jumped on because it was a cool thing,
right?
And everybody was buying it. So having access to a company that's keeping on top of that. How do they find out about you? Like, what is your website?
Allworldmerch.com. All the regular socials at allworldmerch. We're always around. I think just in terms of, I'm pretty neurotic with either response time or people reaching out, just because I know that if someone needs something, they probably need something. So I've always kind of prided ourselves and myself on that if you need something, reach out, hit us in whatever direction that you need, and we'll try to make something happen.
Yeah. And I've been to the site, of course, and it's pretty educational. It'll tell you kind of what's happening in the music industry or what's happening in branding and why you would need a certain thing. And then, of course, it makes it easy for you to create something, start and get involved. And
yeah,
it's pretty user-friendly.
I'm glad you say that, because I go back and forth. You see, like, sometimes these days, everything like minimalistic websites. I'm like, that's cool. It visually looks good, but like the education side of it, you're missing. But at the same time, I don't want to have it drench you with so much information that you're like, I don't even know what I'm reading anymore.
People are going to have to educate their audiences on how to work with them. It's going to be that, just like, the super fan apps. You got your fans going through social media channels, and, the TikTok has a version of this and Instagram has a version of that. And you have them going to Spotify to check you out. But you have to go through a superfan platform, teach them how to use that platform. That's why they try to make those simple, for instance, so that your merch and your streaming becomes combined, and you're making a lot more money on less streams and having to kill yourself, and you're actually, monetizing what you do. So, educating an audience is a big deal right now. I think that people want to know more.
Yeah.
And time will tell, but I feel so far what I've seen, they want to be educated. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we had to jump around, and of course tonight is a big family night. It's Halloween.
Yeah, it is.
So I was able to get in here before all the festivities take place.
No, I'm excited. I appreciate it. Anything that we can do to educate or, just kind of be part of the industry. And I love what you guys have been doing. And just the fact when we met at Confluence, that was kind of perfect timing and perfect scenario too.
Yep. And thank you for tuning in. As always, like we say, we try to find people that can help you on your journey as an aspiring artist and show you what needs to be done so they can make it easier on you, so you can get about the business of, working and building your fan base and your community. And for those that are music fans, this is how it works. So support these artists. You see all the work that goes into being what they are trying to be for you. So again, support local music, support the acts that are rising and indie artists, and go out and buy these T-shirts that they're, this merch, and maybe make some suggestions as far as what you want to see, and they can bring it back to the merch companies. And this guy doesn't take no for an answer, so tries to figure out a way to make it happen. So again, until we are back on, thanks for tuning in, and see you next time. Much love.